Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are so excited to have our special guest with us, Heather Schjenken. Heather spent over 20 years working as a youth teacher, coach, and ministry leader, and she is currently a senior youth trainer at the Montana Institute. She's passionate about empowering young people and has helped lead incredible community transformations using the positive community norms approach. She also serves as an executive director of Youth for Christ in Itasca County, working to create spaces where young people can thrive.
Heather, thank you so much for being here. Before we dive into everything, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to do the work you do today?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. This is great. It's an honor to be asked to be interviewed by the both of you. So, yeah, kind of let's see the journey. Well, I guess I'll just go back to when I started doing prevention work probably, that was probably 12 years ago. We got a grant, which is probably something you're maybe familiarized with, but we got a grant to do prevention work with. And when we started doing that, then we started doing a positive community norms message, which is probably what's bringing me here today to you guys, is to have those conversations about the sort of the power behind that, behind messaging, but more importantly, how youth can be actively involved in that. That's sort of my passion and love for life. I've been doing, like you guys said, over 20 years working with youth, kind of being, I guess, like a hype man for them. I just think it's really fun to see when youth take off and do their best. That brings me the greatest joy of anything I could do. And I've done it in all ways. Like, yeah, I currently work for Youth for Christ and the executive director for a chapter that we have a drop-in youth center. I don't know if you guys have a youth center in your area, but it's a place where kids come and hang out, shoot pool, ping pong, listen to music, eat food. Super cool. They just come and hang out and do that. And then we have clubs in all the communities around us, up to 5 clubs where we meet in homes every week. And yeah, we just try to help everybody be their best, and that's ministry too. So we do that with a spiritual element to it also. So, but yeah, love prevention work. Did that for a long time also. So, yep, happy to be here.
Thank you. So, you've done so many different things working with young people, teaching, coaching, ministry, and prevention. What first got you interested in helping youth?
Probably when I was in high school myself, I had some difficulties in high school, some different family dynamics. I had to go live with my grandparents when I was 16. And so through that time period, there was a high school counselor there, and I just thought she had the best job on earth. She genuinely loved people. She loved me. She loved the other kids she worked with. And having gone through some difficulties in my own life, I remember distinctly in ninth grade writing a paper that I wanted to be a social worker when I went to college to help kids like me. Even though I was one, I wanted to do that, and I wanted to make a difference like she had made in my life. I wanted to do that for others. So it was sort of something that was kind of picked from the beginning, I guess. Yeah, I just always wanted to.
Over the years, what have you learned about how important youth voice is, and why do you think it's key to making such a real change?
I honestly believe adults can only do so much. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to hype you up and we're here to encourage you. And but beyond that, I think real change that happens in a school, the amount of power, and I've seen it because I could watch myself go into a school board meeting, try and suggest change or make change through this, and then I watch young people go in, and it's incredible. Like the board members sit up straighter. They're like they like lean in, and they have these smiles on their faces because they want to hear from youth more, every time. Every time any kind of leadership, they want to hear from youth more than adults. So I think we can help guide, but I definitely think we can only do so much without the youth being inspired to create change. It doesn't happen at the level that it can happen when youth are inspired to do it and lead it.
Sometimes young people don't realize how much power they have and to make a difference. How do you help them see how they can have an impact on schools and communities?
Yeah, I think I guess when I work with youth, I wouldn't say that I'm a leader of them. Like I don't lead youth. I would say I'm more of a guide. It's more like walking us alongside them instead of in front of them. It's just a lot more fun to do that, you know. because then they feel more like you're just hanging out with them, and it feels a lot more organic, and it's just, um, yeah, I think it, yeah, I just think just being in their space, and I also think listening is really, really, really key for a good guide of anything, right? I think there's a time to speak, but I think there's a greater time to listen to youth and to actually hear them, not just like, oh yeah, yeah, that's a great idea, and then just go do what we want to go do, because adults are really good at doing that, and I've done that. And every time I've done that, it doesn't work. So, in my experience in my years of doing this, I've definitely learned to just really shut up and listen and really, really hear them. Um, then they feel inspired too, like someone's actually hearing them. And if you get a group of adults who believe in that, you can see incredible change. So, yeah.
So you've seen how youth leadership can change a community. Can you share a story about a time when young people led a positive change?
Yeah, I would say to start out with, it doesn't happen overnight. That's the thing I would tell everybody. Like, there isn't like this big moment, that was like, boom, the youth just got it and we just made change. It wasn't like that. It was really intentional conversations, with youth. And then it kind of like best way I could describe it is like if a bomb, maybe that's not a good example, but like if a bomb went off, it's like there's the bomb, right? But then it's the impact around it, and it just gets like big, 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 big. Like it goes on and on and on forever, right? And so like a ripple, like throwing a rock in a lake, right? It doesn't just hit the lake. There's a ripple that extends, right? And then but it grows upon each other. So the ripple doesn't fade, it just keeps growing. So maybe that's like a tsunami. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it perfectly, but I would say that's kind of what happened is we got really key people involved too. I think that's really critical. Like we got some of the seniors involved. That was really cool. And then it kind of shifted and it just kind of grew from there. So it really only takes a couple of champions, and that can happen at all levels, all grade levels. So you guys are probably champions for your grade, right? And then the grade below you, which seniors are champions for their grade, and the grades below them. And so as far as stories go, oh my gosh, there's just lots of little moments that led to change, and yeah, I would just say there's different things. I would say one particular story that I thought was kind of cool because he was a senior and he didn't actually believe in our messaging. He was like, Heather, and I knew this kid outside of the school too, and I'd worked with him, and because I work in ministry too, and he was just like, like a struggling kid. He himself used alcohol and different things, and so he came into my room one day and he's just like, I don't believe that most kids don't use. I don't believe that because I see it all the time. And so I asked him, I said, well, I hear you for 100%. That's your environment. But do you think possibly you think it's everywhere because it's the crew you're hanging out with? And then I started throwing up pictures of other kids in his grade. And I said, let's go through. Do you see these kids at the parties every weekend? Do you know? Because you guys know, who uses, who doesn't use. It's a thing, right? And so I'm like, let's just go through these. And by the end of it, it was the same percentage that we were messaging around, right? We were messaging that, 20, at that time, I think it was 21% were using or had replied using. So that means like 79% were not. And he was like, oh my gosh. Oh, I get it. And after that moment, he actually became a really big champion for us. So when they would argue about it in classes, or there'd be the naysayers, that'd be like, yeah, I don't believe the data, I don't believe the data. He'd be like, no, 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 let me show you. And he just got pumped up about it. So, I mean, that's just one little story of like how one person, even a user, I mean, this wasn't a kid that wasn't using, how he actually became a champion for what we were trying to illustrate in that. So it's really just intentional conversations. And sometimes you got to prove what you're doing. You can't just throw it out there and go, you know what, if you don't get it, you don't get it. No, that's not our job, right? It's not your job. Your job is to get out there and have these conversations and to actually say, no, this is why. This is why. So, yeah.
Thank you. When it comes to prevention, What are some of the biggest misunderstandings about substance use that you think people need to rethink?
Yeah, well, definitely that all data shows that most are not using. In fact, it's it's totally like the numbers are going the other direction. And so that we just need to keep challenging that. The cool thing is it is starting to get out there. I know it's really gotten a hold in Minnesota. We're doing a really like just killing it out there. The leaders, the youth, like you guys. But yeah, so I would say that the narrative is changing, what people think it is, but we need to continue working around that.
In Deer River, you don't, or you helped reduce the underage drinking by 50% using the positive community norms approach. Can you explain what that approach looks like in real life?
Yeah, again, it didn't happen overnight, but what we were really intentional about was we didn't just reach youth. We actually reached what you'd call like different sectors across. So like we made sure that the teachers believed in this because if the teachers didn't believe in it, then when the students had conversations with them, then the teachers could say, well, yeah, that's not true. Most kids are using. So we had to make sure that the teachers were on board. We had to make sure the administration was on board. We had to make sure parents were on board because, again, same thing. All the time we could spend with youth and you guys having conversations with each other. If at the end of the day you're going home and a parent's saying, yeah, I don't believe it anyway, you know, then so we had to spend a lot of time having conversations with each of these groups of people and over time, the more buy-in, and there were several instances on, many people when we first started did not believe the numbers. They were like, yeah, that's just your rose-colored glasses. That's not real. It took, I would say, 3 years, 3 years to get the ball rolling. I mean, really get it rolling. So we battled for like a year and a half. There's one particular story where we had been doing the work for about a year, I don't know, year and a half, and there was a party, it got busted. And I'll remember there was an adult that came up to me, teacher came up to me and said, wow, Heather, I guess your program's not working, huh? Like, yeah, I guess the numbers aren't true. And so, but what an opportunity for me, instead of getting defensive about it or just saying, yeah, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, let's look at the numbers, like how many kids were caught. And they were like, well, 14. And I'm like, all right, well, how many kids do we have in the school right now? And they're like, I don't know, 400. I'm like, okay, well, there you go. Not 400 got busted, 14 got busted. So our numbers are spot on, and that's going to happen. And so, again, that was another person that actually kind of became a champion after that conversation because they had to understand the numbers. So yeah, it's that 50% it took 5 years. Took 5 years to do that, but it worked, but it was very intentionally done. Many conversations, and not just by me, but by youth, by our coalition. So the other adults that care about this stuff, those ones you got to really get going and share. I mean, basically, you just got to be passionate about it and share it.
Prevention isn't just about sharing information. What are some actual ways young people can get involved and help solve the problem?
Yeah, what we always did to get youth actively involved, because you guys want to be active, right? So messaging is cool, right? But how do you make messaging active? So we always did a campaign every year and we would switch the campaign. So our first campaign, I think, was like reasons why. And we had students write down reasons why. So our leaders would go around and ask students reasons why you don't drink alcohol, reasons why you don't do marijuana. And then we did a big campaign around that, which then we would kind of have a sort of like a traveling show, sort of, We would bring it to other places. We'd bring it to the courthouse. We'd bring it to school board meetings. We'd bring it to the fire department meetings, wherever we could, to band and choir concerts. And then we'd show that. Well, every year we would do a different campaign, but we would do the same routine, right? We'd share it with other people, share it wherever we could share it. So like one year, probably my favorite was see the good, hashtag see the good. And that was just about all the good things. We had people, adults and young people, write down what was good about Deer River. And that was cool. And we handed out T-shirts at a band and choir concert. Yeah, and then also a really cool way to get youth active is every year have your own show, like your own event, and bring in people to talk about what you did all year. So you'd have it like in, I don't know, April or May. And then you would share, so like a stage and everything, right? And you would do fun games, and it would be families would be involved. But have your leaders host tables. So like you two would host your own table and you would invite your own family and your own friends and your own, like a teacher, a favorite teacher. And when we did that, we would get like 300 people at our events. Now, if I were just to walk around, or even our coalition members, and try to invite people, maybe we get 100, maybe, right? But if you guys do it as leaders, you're going to get 300. Does that make sense? Those are kind of some ways.
Uh-huh. All right, so peer pressure is a huge factor in decision making. How can we use that influence to support making a positive choices instead of using bad ones?
Yeah, I think it's just recognizing, and that can be hard to do, but it is really, I think deep down we always know who's good for us and who's not good for us. So that it goes both ways. Peers can be good for us and they can be a negative for us. So I think it's just having really honest conversations. And most of us probably have that one really good friend, right? The one that really is good for us. And then we have these other people, and I think it's always going back to that one really good friend and saying, hey, what do you think about this guy that I'm hanging out with? That one really good friend is probably going to tell you, yeah, no, he's cool or she's cool. Or they might say, I don't know. I don't know if you should be hanging out with them. Yeah, that's huge. That peer to peer that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can be that for your friends and people younger than you too. I mean, it's a powerful thing.
Sometimes it's tough to get students involved in prevention work, especially if they don't see themselves as leaders. What has worked for you to get them involved?
I think that goes back to getting really key leaders that are in the older grades. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter what grade you're in. It's just as long as you're feeding the other grades to be excited about what you're doing. So, and there's just certain students that are leaders, but you can't just invite them to a meeting. You can't have your prevention group meeting and say, hey, we're having a meeting, you should come. It can't be like that. It's got to be a sit down, say, hey, this is what we're really excited about. This is what really matters to us. Is this something you'd be interested in helping us do, helping us attain, because you're a leader? And there's got to be a lot of groundwork to getting that kind of leadership. If you're just throwing out your meetings and not personally inviting people, it will be a struggle because you're all busy, right? I can guarantee young guys like yourself that are doing something like this, I bet you're in a lot of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet you are, right? Because you're leaders. So if I just invite you to a meeting, any meeting, just say, hey, just show up. Are you likely to show up?
Probably not.
Probably not. But if I sat down with you and said, hey, I don't know, this is who we're about. This is what we're about. And I think that you believe in this too. And share your passion with them, like really show, like, this is why I care about prevention. This is why I care about people not using drugs and alcohol. Yeah, you're probably a lot more likely to have a good conversation. They might not still say yes, but conversation is going to be good.
You train youth all over the country through the Montana Institute. What's one of the most inspiring stories you've heard?
I would say we were out in Montana, probably about a year ago, and there's about 80 youth there, and they had their leaders there. And during that time when we were doing the training, we spent a lot of time talking about why and all these different things and the science, spirit, science, action, return. That's our model that we use. And so we kind of work through those things, and then at the end of the day, we create posters, right? We actually help them create messages about what they care, what they care about and what their message is. And so we got done with it. And it was a very moving experience, like what they shared. The adults in the room were like, wow, we didn't know you felt that way. Like there was even some adults with tears in their eyes. I mean, so that was cool. And I thought that was the thing, right? I thought that's awesome. Well, then to find out like 6 months later that they had been trying to get a survey done in their school for 12 years. So without data, messaging is really hard. I don't know how far along you guys are in messaging, but you have the data, right? Like 87% don't use. Well, they tried for 12 years to reach out to that school board to get a survey done. When our meeting got done, the students took their posters and what they learned that day and went to the school board like a month later. And then that spring, the school board allowed them to do a survey. So that's changed. So all the adults in the room for 12 years were trying to make this happen. The students walk in one meeting and got it done. That's the power of youth. And that to me was really inspiring. Like that was just cool.
Science and positive is really important in your work. How do you explain it to young people in a way that makes sense for their everyday lives?
Yeah, it starts with just this idea of asking them why. Um, it's starting, it's bigger than just positive, right? We know that we're going to be positive with them, but it's really about why do you care? Some people don't care. So why do you care? And I think when you get down to it, so what I've found for many youth that are in prevention work, really, really passionate about it, usually have a very, very personal reason why. They either come from a family of addiction, they've lost someone due to an addiction, car accident. I mean, it's pretty deeply personal for them. It doesn't have to be. Or they've seen their friends go awry. You know what I mean? Like, hey, they were really good friends until about ninth grade, and then all of a sudden their friend went off the beaten path and started using, and now they're not even friends anymore, right? And they love their friends still, right? So it's usually very personal. And so that's what we always start with is like, let's get to the root of it first before we talk about any kind of numbers, data, messaging. Why do you care and why are you here?
Yeah. When young people start to embrace this mindset, how do you see their thinking change about themselves and their communities?
Um, what I see, it's kind of crazy. So when I travel around the United States and we do this in communities, I only get a day with them, right? But what I love to watch is they start out their morning and they're all kind of, it's a little janky and it's a little bit whatever. And then by the end of the day, they are so empowered and so confident. And I mean, it's just a night and day difference. It's just really cool to see that. And then in my own community, having been there for years and years, to see the kids be proud of where they come from. We live in a very rural area. We have very high poverty. The kids used to make jokes about our town, about themselves, like, oh, well, we're from Deer River, so, we don't know how to do this, we don't know how to do that. And I remember hearing that. And as we got to be noticed, like nationally too, we started to be noticed after 5 years when we were reducing alcohol rates. We started getting recognition. There was a crew that came in and did a video, like a TV thing for us, and all these really cool things. All of a sudden, it was cool to be from Deer River. So all the area towns now, they weren't looking at us the way they had, how we always felt they looked at us. There was a lot of pride. There were people coming from other towns, coming to our town going, how did you do this? And having you share it. So yeah, there is something to be said about pride, being proud of where you come from. Can go a long, long way to making healthy decisions. Because when you're proud of yourself, you tend to make less destructive behavior. You just do, because you're proud of who you are. So if you look at it on a bigger scale, if you have your young people believe in your community, they are far less likely to do destructive things.
School youth group wanted to start using the science and positive approach. What is one easy thing that they could do to get started?
I would definitely start with, getting people at the table that care deeply about you. So that care about youth, right? So you know who they are. There's the teachers, right? There's these crazy teachers and adults that that no matter what you do, they love you anyway. The woman in Itasca, in there, yeah, she would be one of your champions, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, for any school, it's finding out those people that just love youth, and they're around. Every school has them. And then from there it begins to be, do you have data, right? You want to be able to see. So you start with spirit first, right? Who's the people in the room that want to help you guys? and then you have science. Where's the data come from? And then you start working off your action statement from there. You never start with action right away. You got to speak to the why. Why do you care? Bring the adults who care to the table. Use your data. Start piecing those two things together, and you'll get a message. And the action step will then go from there. Then it'll turn into the messaging. And then the return, which return is really important that most people don't spend a lot of time talking about. But the return is, did it work? So at the end of every year, you should be evaluating yourselves and saying, hey, was that a good event? Did it reach people? Because if it doesn't reach people, don't do it again. Do something different. If the campaign was amazing, great, do another one. If it flopped, think of something else. So there's like this whole process with PCN.
Yeah. So you've been a leader for a long time, guiding both young people and adults. What's one piece of advice that has really shaped the way you lead?
Just don't give up. Don't ever give up. It takes years, but man, when it's rolling, you can't stop it. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's just incredible. Like, then it's just almost like the work gets super easy, but it's really, really hard in the beginning. Really hard. Just don't give up.
If you give one piece of advice to young people about their role in prevention and leadership, what would you want them to take away from this?
For you guys, my biggest thing when I talk to my own community or when I'm traveling is it absolutely matters what you're doing today for tomorrow. And it sounds cheesy and sounds cliche, but if you have little brothers and sisters, or you have little cousins, or you know anybody younger than you, the work that you're doing now will actually set them up for success later. So for example, I would tell my juniors and seniors that. You know, I'm like, if we make a difference now, if we start messaging to our sixth graders now that most students don't use, we're going to drop it in 5 years dramatically. We believe that. Well, we did that. And so we told them, like, you're not part of just some program. You are absolutely like making an impact for your brothers and sisters younger than you and the younger people. So yeah, it matters. It's not like, don't take lightly what you're doing. This is big. This is huge. You will make a difference.
Yeah. So, thank you again, Heather, for sharing your time and insight with us today. And thank you for everyone listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with a friend and keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and remember, your voice matters.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. You guys are awesome at this.